So I just wanted to start this what if. This is part two to part one of what if Deku had energy manipulation as a quirk. So we restart our story right after Deku had just been placed at first place in the quirk assessment part after after they first got to UA. Deku was first, Bakugo was second, Todoroki was third, and Ida was fourth. So after this, shortly, we get to the next part of the story. This is basically they go to the dorms where everyone's just chilling and nothing really happens too much after that. But the next day, this is when we get All Might, and All Might bursts through the door saying, I'm going through the door like a normal person. And everyone's excited because it's like, wow, we have All Might as a teacher today. That's so cool. He's the number one hero. And Deku and Izuku just immediately look up at All Might and then look back to each other as almost as saying like, I'm gonna be the number one hero. So basically All Might explains that they're going to be doing some hero training today. And he says, come with me to one of the abandoned cities. We're gonna use this to practice. So basically they make their way to the abandoned city and All Might says, okay, so the way we're gonna do this is it's gonna be random. No real prior engagement. Just it's gonna be random. So there will be a villain team and a hero team. For the villains, their job is to protect the bomb, and for the heroes, their job is to infiltrate the building and get the bomb. Now, you can capture villains by using capture tape and touching them with it. You can, defeat a villain normally if you just knock them out, and you can also touch the bomb to win. For the villains, you have to survive until, or make it so they can't touch the bomb until time runs out. Those are the rules. Okay, so basically All Might does, a random algorithm on his phone, I guess, and comes to the conclusion that Deku and Uraraka will be on the same team, and Bakugo and Ida will be on the same team. And basically Izuku's team is the hero team, and Bakugo's team is the villain team. Number 1 versus number 2. And basically All Might just set some ground rules like you two are really strong, so don't blow up the building, limit yourself, don't hurt each other, just basically a fair fight, no killing, that comes to, that just you expect that. Anyway, they move on into the building, Bakugo's team, and Deku tells Uraraka, well, look, Bakugo is probably going to come at me full force and immediately bum rush me because he wants to prove that he's better than me. So what you need to do is sneak past him the moment he comes down. Because if I wait for him on the bottom floor, he'll get impatient and he'll come down. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna hide, and while I distract him, you're gonna go up and fight Ida. And Uraraka understands this plan and she says, I don't know if I can do it, and Deku says, I believe in you, so just you have to achieve it. So basically, like Deku says, Bakugo gets impatient of Deku not coming up to the top floor and immediately goes down. And the second he sees him, pushes his explosions outward to go send himself flying towards Izuku to fight him. Now their fight gets started similarly to like in the anime. For the only difference is Deku doesn't really get hit as much in this fight because Deku has trained with Bakugo and knows how to fight him and knows what his tactics are. So Deku's just keeping his distance, shooting, his beams and lasers at, at a Bakugo and kind of countering his quirk by, because energy is also like heat. So basically whenever Bakugo uses an explosion, he can just take the energy from the explosion and it's just a puff of smoke and not really an explosion because there's no heat to it. So he's kind of countering Bakugo, just letting him tire himself out. And Bakugo is getting extremely upset at this. It's because it's like, are you not taking me seriously? Are you doubting my strength? Are you treating me like I'm weak? I'll show you I'm not weak. And begins to get angrier and angrier and starts using more and more moves and explosives, trying to beat Deku by whatever means, and is actually, trying to beat Deku like to the brink of him needing to go to the hospital for a couple of days. He's really just trying to do whatever means is possible to beat Deku at this point. Deku is trying to keep up because he just bumped it up from like training to I'm gonna kick you, like I'm gonna kick your like. So he is now officially enraged at Deku because he thinks he's treating him like he's weak. So he says, I'm not weak, don't treat me like I'm weak, and starts fighting Deku even more seriously until Deku just says he's had enough, and he enhances himself and he goes straight at at Bakugo and punches him in the face. This sending Bakugo to the wall, and he's hit pretty hard by this. Gets up, albeit like he's hurt, but he gets up from it and he's extremely upset and is about to use his gauntlets. This is when All Might says, young Bakugo, that could kill young Midoriya if he doesn't dodge. And Bakugo just says, well, he just have to dodge. And he fires it off, and Deku just kind of uses a hard energy construct to build a wall. But it breaks through. So then Deku has to use almost like a Susanoo ribcage from Naruto. He kind of uses that to protect himself, and he gets blown back into the wall. And now Deku's upset because now Deku's just gotten hit, and he's really mad at Bakugo. So he immediately just powers up to 20%, and at breakneck speeds, almost like he teleports. He's right behind Bakugo and backhands him with his fist sideways. Just backhands him he hit his ear and slammed him into the wall, and that was the end of Bakugo. So Deku kind of got a little bit carried away, and up top between Ida and Uraraka is trying to touch Ida, but Ida is a little bit too fast for her, so she just decides that she's gonna make everything in the room float. So she just makes everything in the room float, everything that she can muster up and use, and she tries to hit Ida, but there's so many obstacles, and Ida kind of, just gets past her, blitzes her, and she's almost knocked out. And that's when Deku arrives and says, do you need help? And she says, no, I got this. And Ida comes at her, and that's when she drops the gravity on all the things that she picked up, and they start falling at Ida so fast. And he's trying to dodge those, and he immediately gets captured by the capture tape because Uraraka touches him with it while he's distracted, and they win by touching the bomb. Now, at the end of this, All Might is extremely mad at both Izuku and Bakugo for going that, strongly and hitting each other that hard, because they both could have killed each other if they weren't careful. And he reprimands them both and says that Ida was the one who did the best. Uraraka's like, why? But I thought I did good too. I didn't do anything. And he says, well, your ability that you had to set up took a long time, and it couldn't be activated immediately. And if this was an actual villain, they would have just killed you instead of Ida just, beating on you. So Ida gets the MVP. After this goes down, there's nothing too drastic that really happens until we get to the USJ arc. Because after that, everything happens the same as canon, and we go to the USJ arc. I might seem like I'm going a little bit fast, but I kind of wanted to make it so we understand, we get to the real important events and don't just, spend hours just on the back end of it. So basically, they get to the USJ arc, and they meet 13, and Uraraka's astounded because she's like, 13's my favorite hero. And basically, they do some, what is it called? Different weather scenario training, in the Antarctic, in the blazing heat, all that, and in water, on a boat. And basically, they're about to do this, and everyone's pumped, and they want to go rescue people. That's when Shigaraki and his men teleport in the thousands. This is not normal canon. This is thousands of people. They really just use those flood tactics, and they all just immediately, no hesitation, just immediately go straight for All Might. They all go straight for All Might, and they're making a beeline. And the only one who really wants to get involved is kind of Deku, and the top three, and Ida's just kind of controlling the situation. And he's just telling everybody to stay calm and that the heroes will protect us and all this. And all the top three students want to get involved and want to fight, but that's when they immediately get teleported to different areas with different students, and everyone's freaking out. The same thing with Deku happens. Deku basically just jumps up off the ship, grabbing Mineta and Sue, and makes like a hard like construct of wings, and basically just shoots a super strong beam in the water, making it all swirl down into like a whirlpool, and knocking out all the villains. He flies to the main conflict where he sees Todoroki and Bakugo fighting off leagues of villains, but they're just really getting overwhelmed in sheer numbers, but they're getting tired. So basically, All Might isn't here yet, so they're just kind of fighting, and Deku just decides that he's gonna get a little bit more forceful because he can't be so reliant, because some of these guys are a little bit stronger. So he uses his beam at like 10% and starts blowing things up. Like when the beams make contact with the ground, they immediately explode, like hitting like 5 other people besides the 15 people that they hit. So he's just using a lot of his abilities, and this is when we find out Deku's second ability, which is called Gun Series Minigun, and that's basically when he makes a hard like construct of like the barrel of a minigun, and he starts instantly shooting lasers out of his arm at rapid speeds all around the stadium. Well, not the stadium, but the USJ. And he immediately switches and says Gun Series Heavy Sniper when he makes a heavy sniper construct and blows through like in a straight line like 15 people trying to hit Shigaraki, but the attack is teleported somewhere else by one of his goons. And this is when Bakugo and Todoroki are like, so you were holding back this entire time? And Deku's like, can we not focus on that now? We have to defend the other students. And they say, stupid Deku, like what Bakugo does. He says, you think you can surpass me? And Todoroki's like, geez, he was holding back. I thought that was the extent of his power. I didn't realize that I wasn't the best here. So basically, they just kind of talk into themselves, by themselves. Essentially, they just, slaughtering all of the people, not killing them, but just basically beating them in mass numbers. And this is when the Nomu appears. And now this is a very important part, because the Nomu appears and everyone's shocked. Everyone's scared. They're like, what is that? Nomu goes straight after Bakugo and Todoroki, like, cause Deku's still flying. Deku's still in the air, and he put Sue and Mineta down a little while ago. So he's still in the air, and they go straight for Todoroki and Bakugo, and Deku tells them to watch out, because the Nomu's fast, really fast. So the Nomu's just behind them and swings, and they both duck, barely missing it. Todoroki freezes the Nomu so he can get away, and Bakugo explodes up into the air when the Nomu breaks the ice and goes straight for Todoroki. And Deku uses his gun series heavy sniper or railgun and shoots the Nomu right through the chest, leaving a big hole, and everyone thinks Deku killed him, but he instantly starts regenerating. And this is when people get really scared. They're like, wow, so he's super strong, super fast, and he has regeneration. So this is when Aizawa says, okay, this can't happen anymore. This is like, he, even with his injuries, he's like, Ida, go get the heroes. This needs to be resolved. This isn't just a normal, person. So he's like, go get All Might. And basically, Ida runs off going to get All Might, and among other heroes, but mostly All Might. And in this situation, the Nomu is basically wrecking everyone. Like anyone who's in his way, he immediately wrecks. Even his own like teammates. The random riffraff villains. He's running through those guys, destroying them, going straight for Todoroki. Todoroki's trying to get away, but he can't. And this is when Deku swoops in and punches him with, like, if you know what I'm talking about, you do. If you don't, then you probably have to watch Naruto and get to, like, Shippuden. But basically, the Susanoo cage, the Susanoo rib cage can sprout a hand, and basically that's what Deku does. And punches the Nomu, like really just sends him flying. The Nomu's, hitting other people while he's skidding across the floor, falling. The Nomu recovers, gets up, and is even faster than before, goes straight towards Deku and punches him out of the USJ. Like, That's how hard the Nomu is a lot stronger in this one than not again. He just really just, bats him out. Like, he is gone. Like, Deku's in the air outside of the USJ, like thousands of feet into the sky. The Nomu is a lot stronger. There is no games being played. So everyone thinks Deku's dead. Like, everyone's like, wow, Deku died. Like, Bakugo's like, that stupid Deku, he wouldn't died. He was supposed to be my rival. Now who's gonna be my rival? Todoroki's just scared, like scared. Todoroki is scared, S-less. Like, he is just immediately terrified because he's like, Deku was stronger than me. How am I supposed to get away from this Nomu if he just killed Deku in one shot? So Todoroki is trying to get away. He's trying to get to safety, and there is just no option. Like, so he is trying, and the Nomu is just breaking through all of his ice, and he's even using his fire. This is how scared Todoroki is, and he's even using his fire to burn him, and he's trying to keep the Nomu away, but the Nomu keeps on getting in his face and almost hitting him until All Might comes and punches him, knocking the Nomu to the ground, telling Todoroki to get away, and this is when their fight starts. But Deku's still in the air, and he's trying to fly down, and he's like, what would be the best option? So he basically just, covers himself in a light energy ball and just lets himself fall. So he's falling super fast, like a dive bomb. He's falling extremely fast, and he just hits the top of the USJ, easily breaking through it, hitting the ground right before the Nomu, and All Might duking it out. But All Might was going to lose this one anyway because, well, the Nomu was a lot stronger. He barely won in canon. So basically, Deku hits the ground, and Deku's pissed. Like, Deku's not playing any more games with this Nomu. He says, I'm going to kill you, and that's it. So basically, he tells All Might to back up because he actually knows All Might's secret, and he knows he's running out of time. So he's like, All Might, I have this. Trust me, back up. So everyone just clears out, like, except the villains, the main villains, like Shigaraki and the teleporter guy, and, like, all of the main inner circle villains, stay there, but all of the riffraff are in the way. And basically, Deku would charged up to 25%. Now, I said he went from 10% to 20% when he blasted a hole through the Nomu with his railgun. Like, 25% is a big increase. It might not seem like a lot, but let's just describe this like this. If Mount Lady kicking that one guy at the beginning of the series was Deku at 20%, the United States of Smash is like 25%. Like, that's it's not actually that strong, but that's the kind of huge increase of power that's really there. I just wanted to show you, but it's not as strong as the United States of Smash. He probably could be, but it's not there yet. So Deku just immediately is tired of the Nomu and just walks up to him extremely slowly. Nomu tries to punch him. He's behind him. No one knows how he's that fast. And he just basically says, die, God punch, and punches him, obliterating everything. Like, there's nothing for the Nomu to regenerate. Basically obliterates him, and the energy is still going, and it breaks through the USJ wall and continues to go on until it dissipates. And everyone's just shocked because he just one shot at the thing that All Might was having trouble with. So everyone's like, wow, I really don't want to fight him. And All Might is essentially about to turn. So Deku just kind of scares off Shigaraki and the rest of them by just looking at them fiercely and says, I'll just take all the energy out of your body and kill you. Threatening them, they run away, they retreat because the Nomu was their trump card. They retreat, and Deku grabs All Might and flies him into the air so that he can transform because he couldn't hold it for much longer. Everyone's just shocked. Todoroki's just on his knees. He's just extremely terrified, and Bakugo's pissed because he's like, he took all of my spotlight and he's been holding back this entire time. No, I can't let this pass. I can't let this happen. So basically, after that, All Might's fine. He's taken to the infirmary. Everyone's fine. No one died or anything. They arrested all the villains that were knocked out, and we come back to actually see Todoroki training with his fire side and his ice side, and he is going at it with Bakugo. They are fighting continuously, trying to catch up to Deku. Bakugo and Todoroki basically are training super intensely every day, every minute. They're meeting up, they're fighting. They just keep repeating this process. And let's just say because of the USJ event, they just basically get a week off from school. And that's because, All Might has to go and tell the parents, like, oh, I'm sorry, I won't let it happen again. I promise I'll keep your children safe. Basically, that happens, so they get a week off. So Bakugo and Todoroki are just training their brains away, bro. Like, they're fighting, they're training, they're doing this every day. And let me tell you how big the increase is. They don't have Zenkai or anything. You either get it or you don't. But anyway, they don't have Zenkai or anything. But basically, they were already on the cusp of learning new techniques. So Bakugo and Todoroki learn new techniques, and they just immediately get stronger like that. So now they're basically on Deku's level. They're training this entire week and using their quirks for ungodly amounts of time. They've increased Bakugo's explosions. Let's say if Bakugo really pushed himself, his explosions could be, in a radius of like 50 meters if he really pushed himself. So this is Bakugo with stupid powerful explosions. Like, the building that they were training in, Bakugo could probably make his explosion reach half of that building. So this is like a 100-meter area of effect, and it's like burning things. It's having an area of effect. It's lasting after he does the explosion. He's super strong. Todoroki actually semi-awakens his quirk and just kind of like he unlocks blue flames, because Endeavor can do that. So he just kind of unlocks blue flames, and it's not too much of an increase, but he can use either side of that he wants without having to use the other to revert the effects for longer now. And he has blue flame, which is stronger, and does that technique, that technique that he uses in the sports festival. He knows that now before he actually went to the sports festival. So after this, they're pretty strong now. They're on equal level to Deku at 25%, which is kind of crazy because Deku at 25%, the God Punch was really overkill, but he just kind of wanted to show like that he wasn't playing anymore and that he was kind of mad. So 25% was overkill. He could have did it with 21, but God Punch was overkill. So basically, they learned some new techniques. It's whatever they do, their fighting styles and stuff in mixed martial arts, and they're really practicing. So like they're really pushing the envelope. So the week ends and everyone comes back to school because most everyone is allowed to come back to school to back UA. And this is when we get the warning about, hey, the sports festival is coming up shortly, and we have to do good. We have to represent UA well, because everything that happened at the villain event, that was what Mr. Aizawa said. So he's like, at USJ, we have to keep this going, or everyone's gonna be like, oh, they can't handle it. They're still recovering from the villain attack. I don't want my child to be there. So basically, like, we gotta do this right. So immediately, Deku and Todoroki and Bakugo, I mean, not all of them, but not yet, but they will. So basically, Todoroki and Bakugo team up and say, Deku, fight us. And Deku's wondering why he's being asked to fight them. And they say because he's been holding back and they've gotten a lot stronger and they want to test their power. So basically, after that day at school, they go out to where Bakugo and Deku fight in the anime. Like, after they've at UA, and Deku has one for all. And essentially, they tag team Deku trying to fight him. Deku's just kind of, blocking them, not really using too much power, shooting a beam every once in a while. And this is when we get Deku's next technique in the gun series. It's called Revolver Scatter Shot. In gun series. So it's super strong and it's 6 shots and it goes in a wave, and there's like at least a couple meters in between them. So he's doing this, and they're like, so you're not even going to use your strongest techniques. You really think we're that weak? And they've been kind of holding back too, but not a lot. So they go at him and they push him, and Deku says, okay, so you want my full power? He says, gun series bazooka. And it uses this, shooting big beams of energy that explode on impact, and if they get hit, they will probably sustain a lot of damage and may not be able to fight. So they're like, okay, so he's actually using strong techniques. And this is when they go full power and immediately blitz Deku. Like, they're beating Deku. They're beating up Deku now. Deku's not really trying. He's using his energy to block. To block. But it's under his clothes, so he's taking less damage. And they're beating on Deku, and they say, oh, Deku, so you still think you don't need to do this? And they start getting deadly. Like, they're like, if you don't fight back, then we'll kill you. And that's like, they're like, they don't want to kill him, but they're just saying, like, we're so strong now. If you don't fight back, we'll kill you. And basically, Deku acknowledges this and says, okay. So he goes to 25%, and is just wildly faster than them. They expected him to outspeed them and outstrength them, so they have a tactic for it. Basically, Bakugo essentially learned how to fly or whatever, and Todoroki learned how to slide on his ice better so that he can use it to go up into the air to escape Deku. So basically, they run into the air and make this an air battle. So Deku just immediately runs up the pillar of ice that Todoroki uses, because Todoroki makes a platform for him to stand on. So Deku runs up this vertically. That's how fast he is, and is in Todoroki's face, and immediately grabs his face and jumps to Bakugo, and is on Bakugo's back holding him, and Bakugo just stops because he's shocked by this, and they start falling. Deku lands, cracking the ground, and immediately slams them into the ground. And they get back up wanting to fight. And Deku says, okay, I acknowledge your strength. You don't need to let yourselves die here for no reason. So he gets out of Susanoo ribcage and has 2 arms. They rush him. They're tired. They're beaten. They were really hurt after that technique. And he basically just backhands the both of them. They're knocked out. Picks them both up and just walks back. So that's the proceedings of their fight. And basically Deku wins without really trying. And I'm not trying to make him too overpowered, because there are some people that can face him, and Bakugo in the future of the series will be able to take him on, and so will Todoroki. But basically, this was the first day after they learned the week of pleading so that they can stay at UA. This is the first week, so they know about the sports festival that'll be happening in 4 more days. So Bakugo and Todoroki, after taking a day to have a full recovery, they go back to training and they start training super hard. And Deku actually offers to train them on their speed and mobility so that they can actually keep up with him. So they take up this offer because they're not cocky. Bakugo's not cocky, and Todoroki's not really he's not like that I'm unimpressed kind of guy. So he just accepts this help, and he's training them. And this is when All Might sees this, and he thinks that Todoroki is a good fit for All For One, but so is Bakugo. And he says if they keep getting stronger, then they'll be able to inherit it. And this actually opens up a big possibility that both of them could get 50% of All For One. Of One For All. I keep on getting those mixed up. So basically, they train for the rest of the 3 days before the sports festival. And nothing really too important happens. Deku enters the sports festival, but he's actually limited like a teacher. Like, no one wants Deku to hurt anyone, so he has padded like hands and feet, and he's really padded up a lot, and he's not allowed to go past 10%. Like, so this is Deku. Like, he's really, really weighted. Not because they think everyone else is weak. They know that Todoroki and Bakugo can probably keep up with Deku, but not everybody else. So he's not, like, anyone he fights, he's not allowed to use, beyond 10%. 10% is basically, like, enough to beat Ida in speed, and as strong as, like, Kirishima when he punches something. So, not too crazy, but he's not too weak. He's stronger than a normal human by a big margin, but not too strong. So basically, in this one, this first person to fight is Izuku Midoriya. And everyone's really shocked at this, and they're like, poor soul, whoever has to fight him. And it's actually quite someone interesting. It's actually Kirishima. And Kirishima is not particularly excited to fight Deku. Deku goes back into before they actually called out, he puts on his pads, his 100-pound weights on both his ankles and his wrists, and his padding all over, and basically steps onto the stage, and everyone's like, wow, why is he so padded up? He must be super strong. Kirishima goes out and just is terrified. Kirishima wants to give up, but he knows that that's not manly. So Kirishima fights Deku. Deku's kind of, not toying with him, but just using enough to, get by. And Kirishima's like, are you going to, are you going to treat me like a child and not face me in my full power? That's just disrespectful. And he's like, I'm not. I'm treating you like I would anyone else. And he's just fighting Kirishima, and he notices that Kirishima is actually, he's scared to attack him. So he lets Kirishima get in like 2 solid hits so that he'll rush in. And he's kind of training him like Vegeta did in Super to Kaba. He's kind of training him because he knows he's on the cusp of something and that he hasn't reached yet. And he's like, So basically, he just blitzes past Kirishima and punches him in the back, like basically making them drop down to his knees, like cracking the armor on his back. So he says, well, Kirishima, if you don't harden yourself more, you're gonna get badly and seriously hurt, and you're gonna you're gonna fail, you're gonna lose, and that's not gonna be manly. And Kirishima just immediately gets up in his normal form and trying to attack Deku. Deku's just dodging him, and everyone's like, the fight's over, Kirishima's gonna lose. Why is Deku touring with him? And basically, he forces Kirishima he says, I'm getting serious now. If you don't harden, I will hit you and it might kill you. And Kirishima's very scared by this, and Kirishima prepares to take the hit until he notices that he's hardened past his limit before. Like he having that rusty metal type of sound when he moves. And he actually tanks the hit very well. He barely moves. And Deku is surprised. He's like, I didn't expect him to go this far. Because this is hardening at 10% and Kirishima was at 5%. So he can get a lot stronger. So now Kirishima's just going at Deku. He's like, I have to use this before it runs out. So he goes at Deku and starts punching at Deku. Missing him by a slim margin. Deku lets him get a hit in so that he knows that he's accomplished something. And immediately after this, Deku just, Kirishima throws a punch at him, Deku grabs it and knocks him out. Like that simple. He grabs his hand, chops his neck, and he's out. And so basically, nothing else too important really happens until we get to Bakugo and Uraraka. And because of Bakugo's personality, he's not going to embarrass Uraraka. So he basically just doesn't give her a chance to do anything. None of her tricks in the original work here. He just basically flies up, flies down, and kicks her in the stomach. And she flew out of the arena. And I'm not trying to make Uraraka, weak or whatever, but it's just she doesn't really hold a candle. Not even with her tricks and tactics, she doesn't really stand up to Bakugo in any shape or form. So basically, then we just really get to the final fight, which is Deku, the most important fight, which is Deku versus Todoroki. And Todoroki is kind of wary. He doesn't really want to fight him. So basically, Deku is allowed to take off his 100-pound weights, but not his padding, and they don't allow him to go past 10% even when he's fighting Todoroki. And this insults Todoroki, and he is immediately upset, and his dad's watching him, and he's like, hey, why are you making this kid, take padding and stuff like this so that he doesn't hurt my child? Are you trying to say that my kid is weak? And he just starts arguing with All Might and goes up into the observation booth and just starts arguing. He's like, tell that kid to take off his padding. He's insulting my son. My son is going to be the #1 hero. He's going to surpass All Might. This is insulting. And he's just really just yapping at them, and they really don't care. But essentially, Todoroki says, "So you're gonna disrespect me after you train me? So you're gonna disrespect me?" And he says, "No, it's the handicap that I was given." And he's like, "No, take that off." So and he's like, "You have to fight me at full power, or I will give up right now." And basically, Deku actually they kind of made a friendship, like a master teacher and also a friendship. So he's like, "I don't mean any disrespect, but this is just the handicap I was given." And he's like, "I don't care if you don't take this off. I'll give up right now, and I'll give up right now." And he says something drastic, I'll leave UA or something. Like you can't disrespect me. So basically, with Deku wanting to oblige him, he immediately takes off his padding and goes into 25% and rushes at him full force, punching Todoroki in the face. This drops Todoroki to his knees. Like he picks himself up though. He kind of tanks it. He takes a good bit of damage, but not as much as before. And he immediately turns on his blue flames, and his ice is super super cold. Like it freezes everything in the stadium. Like everyone's getting super cold, and it's permeating around the entire stadium, making the entire stadium cold. And they just start fighting. They just start going at it. And Deku's not, being like I'm gonna teach you stuff. No, he's just going at him. He's beating on Todoroki, basically pounding him into the ground, curb stomping him, and basically Todoroki just keeps on getting back up and back up, and Deku's like, come on, we both know that I'm gonna win, so I'm not disrespecting you. I actually use my full power, like, or the level that you're on to fight you, and you're not disrespected. You're still gonna be respected. You're strong. And he's like, no, I'm not, because I still can't hold a candle to you. And he's like, well, that's only because you haven't trained enough. And basically, this makes Todoroki do that final move that he does in the original anime and the sports festival against Deku. Deku just tanks it. He just kind of uses his Susanoo, but his Susanoo breaks and he gets hit with it and burned like super badly, like third-degree burns all over his body, and he's like mangled and stuff. And basically, Izuku's kind of like bleeding in places, and he's missing skin. Like he was really really burned and messed up by that attack. And he essentially takes the energy from the ground to heal himself, and now they know about that ability. And Deku says, "All right, I'll treat you like an opponent," and does a dumbed down version of the God Punch and sends Todoroki flying to the wall. Todoroki's out. Deku wins. Now, this video has gone on long enough, and I think I've covered 2 arcs already, so I really shouldn't go any further because I'm already making this long. So if you like the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and ring that notification bell. And with that being said, I'll see you next video.